Now, the New York Giants have always been, in their long lineage of NFL football, been known as a franchise that has churned out a bunch of legendary linebacker players. From the likes of Lawrence Taylor, Gary Reasons, Sam Huff, Pepper Johnson, Brad Van Pelt, Harry Carson, Carl Banks, Jesse Armstead, Antonio Pierce, amongst legendary New York Giants linebackers that have come into this organization and helped elevate this roster and put them as one of the greatest defensive teams during their time period when they were playing in the NFL. Recently, the New York Giants have been struggling in terms of finding capable linebackers that can go out there, have a longevity of a career with the New York Giants, as well as be able to create the impact in not only the run game, the pass rush game, but also in the coverage skills. As the New York Giants have struggled and have not drafted a first-round pick in the draft since Carl Banks was running around for the New York Giants and winning Super Bowl in the 1990 season. But I have a feeling maybe that the New York Giants linebacking position might be changing, as we do have some young prospects in here, not only at the outside linebacker position, but even at the inside linebacker position, that maybe the linebackers are coming back to fruition for the New York Giants going forward. What's going on, everybody? This is NYG Jeffy T 3285. I hope everybody's enjoying their Monday so far. And this is part 7 of the New York Giants Roundabout, where I'm going to be talking about the New York Giants linebacker core as a whole. That's including the outside linebacking position, which I described in my previous video, that also are going to be playing some defensive end, depending on the type of scheme that Wink Martindale wants to throw out, as well as that inside linebacker position, which right now could be one of the biggest holes on the New York Giants and very unproven positions heading into New York Giants training camp, as well as the 2022 NFL season. Now, when you think about the New York Giants linebacking position in terms of just the overall linebackers, one of the first names that you're always going to come to mind when you think of this position is going to be number 54, Blake Martinez, who was signed by the New York Giants in the 2020 offseason to provide leadership as well as an inside linebacker presence in the run defense, maybe provide some pass rushing, and could even be a guy that can help out in the coverage department. Blake Martinez actually had a really solid season in his first season with the New York Giants, as he was able to be a guy that was a force in the run game to help provide stopping the run for the opposing defenses, and he was also pretty solid in terms of getting some pass rush ability on the quarterbacks in the 2020 season. Unfortunately, in the 2021 season, Blake Martinez only played 2.5 games, as he was sidelined for the rest of the season due to a torn ACL when he played against the Atlanta Falcons, and in a way that really hurt the New York Giants defense going forward, as his impact missing on that defense was really felt by the entire New York Giants defense overall, as they were just missing that leadership in the middle, a guy that can help out in the run game, and him coupled with the loss of Dalvin Tomlinson really had an impact on the run game for the New York Giants in the 2021 season. But Blake Martinez is back this year, coming off that torn ACL. He has been participating, though limitedly, in the OTAs and minicamp, and he's looking to be ready to go for the 2022 training camp and preseason, as well as the 2022 season. The question is, what are you going to get from a guy coming off a serious knee injury who has already struggled at times when it comes to coverage skills in terms of being a coverage linebacker? Obviously, he's going to be making the roster. He's 100% lock, as he's going to be the guy that's going to be the focal point of that middle linebacking position and just the inside linebacking position as a whole. Now, the guys next to him, it's a bunch of unproven guys right now. You have guys like Justin Hilliard. You have guys like Tay Crowder, Carter Coughlin, Cam Brown, as well as the rookies Micah McFadden and Darian Beavers. Some of these guys do have upside. Some of these guys could contribute for the New York Giants in terms of that linebacker position, but they're right now very unproven players heading into the 2022 season, starting with Tay Crowder. Tay Crowder has been namely a guy that has played the starting linebacker position opposite of a guy like Blake Martinez, and he's been solid in the type of role that he's been playing, but he's not been spectacular. What do you expect from a guy that's a 7th-round pick? he was the Mr. Irrelevant in 2020 for the New York Football Giants. And he's just come in. He's been steady against the run at times, struggled in pass protection, but he has gotten exposed at times when he's been played too much out there on the defense. I think Tay Crowder is best being a sparring player that can commit against the run. Maybe you can use at times in the pass rush game if you want to bring an all-out blitz, but you don't want to put him in a position where he has to be able to play coverage against the opposing team's tight end, because he will struggle in that department. And you need to just keep Tay Crowder in a type of role where he's going to be able to use them maybe like a 1 or 2 down system, and that's what he needs to be used at best. You can't overexpose this guy, or he will be a problem for the New York Giants in terms of their defense. Justin Hilliard, he's just a guy that's going to be pretty much brought in as a guy, that's going to be sparingly played. I know he's not going to be playing for the first few games of the season as he was suspended for a performance-enhancing drugs issue. So who even knows if he's going to make the roster. If he does, he's going to probably come back and, be brought in as maybe a special teams player. Couple of nickel or dime packages. Going to be able to come in on defense occasionally at times and provide some sub-package defense roles. But I'm not expecting a whole lot out of Justin Hilliard, especially the fact he's going to be missing the first few games of the season. Hopefully he can still maybe come in and contribute when he comes back from suspension, if he's part of the roster. I think he's still got a good chance to make the roster. I think the Giants brass does like him. So I think he's going to be probably a 65% chance to make the roster in terms of Tay Crowder. I expect him to be on the roster, so I think he's going to be a 95 to 100% chance to be here. Tay Crowder might even win the starting linebacker position opposite of Blake Martinez. Now, in terms of Carter Coughlin actually was a 6th-round pick out of Minnesota in 2020. Mainly played at the outside linebacker position, but it was transitioned to inside linebacker when Blake Martinez went down, and they were struggling in terms of finding guys for that inside linebacker position. He's a guy that's mainly going to be used. He should be more used as a pass rush threat. He's not really very strong against the run. He's a guy that's pretty much a special teams guy. Didn't really play a lot towards the end of the season. I don't know what his role is going to be in 2022, if he even makes the roster. But if he does, I think he's going to be sparingly used. A guy that's going to be maybe a pass rush threat, on the outside. Maybe be used a little bit more in coverage. I just don't expect a whole lot out of Carter Coughlin. I think he'll make the roster because I just don't know anybody else that's going to top him right now. I think there's going to be a bunch of linebackers that are going to make this team. So I think he's going to be used as I think he's going to probably make the roster at a 65-70% chance. I don't expect a whole lot of Carter Coughlin. In terms of Cam Brown, I think will make the roster because I think his value, especially to Thomas McGahee loves this guy in terms of his special teams. He's mainly been used as a gunner. He's the type of guy that you want to be used. He's a primary special teams role guy, so I think that alone will help him make the roster. And I think he could contribute in terms of some of the plays on the defensive side, more in the pass rush department, even the run game. I think he's more of a sub-package linebacker as well. But he's mainly just a special teams guy, and I think that's the main reason why he'll make this roster. Now I'm going to go to the rookies. Micah McFadden and Darian Beavers. Different skill sets, but I think both these guys can contribute and help out that linebacking position. Even one of them could even usurp a guy like Tay Crowder for that starting linebacker position opposite Blake Martinez. Starting with Darian Beavers, who's got that old school mentality for a linebacker. Big guy, in the middle, a thumper, a guy that is willing to hit, but he struggles with his athleticism. He's not the most athletic guy, and he can get tied up at times when it comes to athletic offensive playmakers in the run game as well as the tight ends. But he's a guy that when he's going to come in, he's going to hit you. He's going to knock you on your ass. He's going to be a guy that's going to play the run aggressively, be a pass rush threat in the middle. He's the type of guy that you want in terms of your old school linebacker, like an Antonio Pierce. He reminds me a lot of what Antonio Pierce brought to the New York Giants when he was signed in 2005 off the Washington Redskins team, now the Washington Commanders. But he's that old school type of linebacker that he's not going to bring the most athleticism, but he's going to hit you, he's going to knock you down, he's going to bring that pass rush threat off the outside, and he's going to be a guy that you're not going to want to see in the open field because if he has a chance to hit you, he's going to knock you down and he's not going to miss. Now, in terms of Michael McFadden, He's more of a guy, I think is a little bit more athletic. He does get struggle at times, you know, in coverage. But I think his best asset is going to be in the run game. And I think he could be a guy that could be used sparingly in terms of the passing game. He could be a guy that could be used in the coverage skills. Not the most athletic guy as well, but I think he's a little bit more of a guy that can be used in the passing department. I apologize if my words are all tongued up. Micah McFadden is more of a sub-package guy. He's more of a guy that's going to be used in coverage, I think, if anything. Could be used in the pass rush department, but I expect Micah McFadden to be able to be used more in the coverage department for the New York Giants for the linebacker position. But I mean, I like his skill set. It's different from Darian Beavers. I think he could come out and contribute for this New York Giants team. I expect Darian Beavers to be a guy. I think Darian Beavers and Mike McFadden will both make the roster. I give him a 75 to 80% chance to be here. I think both guys will make this roster going forward. I really like Darian Beavers' skill set, and I do like Mike McFadden too. I think McFadden, though, is going to be taking a little bit more time to develop, as his game is a little bit more raw than Beavers. I think Beavers is a little bit more NFL ready for his skill set. It's just he's got to try to improve on his athleticism. And McFadden, I think, is going to develop his all-around game as he goes. So I think he's going to be more of a role player and maybe a special teams contributor, as both Beavers and McFadden can be used as special teams. I think both these guys will not only just be used in the linebacker department, but I think they'll be also a fan favorite of Thomas McGahee on the special teams unit as well. So I do like the young core of this linebacker group as a whole. I really do. I think they have a chance to show something. They just need a little bit more time to develop. They're very unproven. Yes, the linebacker position in the inside part is a hole right now. You don't know what you're going to get right now. And even a guy like Jahide Ward. I forgot to talk about Jahide Ward, the 7-year pro who was drafted out of Las Vegas in the second round, has been part of Baltimore, has been mostly been known as a sparingly used, you know, a role player, but as a leadership qualities. He's pretty much brought in here to bring that leadership to the team. You know, be a good rotational player for the Baltimore Ravens. Not going to get you a lot in terms of the pass rush. It's going to be a guy that's going to help out in the run game a lot. So that's what you're expecting from a guy like Jahide Ward, who has mostly been brought in here because he's been he knows Wink Martindale's defensive scheme and his system, a la like Justin Ellis. And he's a guy that's going to be able to provide leadership, good run defense, maybe a little bit of a pass rush, but I'm not expecting a whole lot from him in that department. Now, we've already talked about the outside linebacker position when you talk about Quincy Roche, Ellison Smith, Timon Fox, and these guys, but especially, obviously, the two starting outside linebackers, Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari, who the New York Giants are going to be leaning on heavily for their pass rush at the outside linebacker position. We all know what these two guys can do. Azeez Ojulari had a great rookie year, 8 sacks. You expect he's bulked up a lot this offseason. You expect him to make the jump in his second year. And Kayvon Thibodeau, number 5 pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. You expecting this guy to come in and contribute immediately and be a force at the pass rushing department. And then you got guys like Ellison Smith and Quincy Roche that are going to be primary backups, provide some pass rush, even as well as the run defenses. Quincy Roche did a great job in terms of run defense at the defensive end / outside linebacker position in 2021. So we already talked about that in my previous video, what you expect from these guys. Pass rush, outside pressure. You're expecting these guys to disrupt the quarterback as well as Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence. These guys are going to be your guys that are going to make it uncomfortable for the quarterback going forward. The linebacker position has a chance to show something in 2022, but it's a lot of unproven guys that need to show more. They need to prove to the Giants fan base that they can get it done in terms of that position that has been a problem for many years. The linebacker position has had a folklore of great players that have come through this New York Giants organization for many years. You just need to see it on the field. You need to see these guys go out there and show the fan base that the linebacking position could come back and could prove that we're going to be a force at the position again, and that we don't have to worry about the types of players we had in the past. And I forgot about O'Shane Ximines, the 4th-year linebacker out of Old Dominion. I don't think he's going to make the roster. I think he's just a holdover right now, a camp body. He hasn't really contributed much. I don't expect much from O'Shane Ximines. If he makes the roster, I'd be shocked. He's just going to pretty much a special teams guy, if he can do that, because he's never really done special teams at all in his 4-year career. So I don't expect him to make the roster. I think he's got a 35% chance at best. But I really hope that this linebacker position can develop with the young players we have on there, as well as some of the vets that are there. You know, I really could see that the linebacking position is a work in progress right now, but with the time, maybe they could develop some of these young players with the linebacking coaches they have right now, and maybe we could see something from this position going forward. So that's just my overview of the New York Giants linebacking position on the New York Giants Roundabout Part 7. If you like the video, please hit the like button below. Turn the bell on below for notifications on the next video or short surrounding the New York Giants, Brooklyn Nets, New York Mets, WWE Wrestling, as well as food for thought. Leave a comment below on what your expectations are for the linebacking group overall, who you're looking forward to seeing the most in training camp, as well as during the season. And subscribe if you haven't already to NYG Jeffy T 3285 for more breaking news, updates, and chatter surrounding the New York Giants. I hope stay tuned for Part 8 of the New York Giants Roundabout, where I'm going to be talking about the safety position, where it has a decent amount of young, good players, but very unproven. So I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your Monday. Enjoy the rest of your work week. Take it easy, and let's go New York Football Giants.